will do my best to respond to any chat that comes up. But this is an experiment with sourdough here. I used a basket to hopefully put some texture to it. I also use rice flour. And this is ready to go into a preheated Dutch oven. So this is always the fun part. I don't know how well this is going to come out of here. I use this foil to try to keep the shape on this side of it here. Seems to have done all right. So let's just take it and flip it out onto my parchment paper. Hopefully it does it nice and easy. Here, you know what? I'm going to actually take it and tuck it in there with my hand. Not bad. I'm going to try to reshape it a little bit. See, it's got some texture to it. It also has a nice crack on this side already. So I'm just going to wet my razor knife. And I'm going to put a nice big slice over here. I'm going to do another one right down the middle. And then I'll kind of go into this one that's already here. All right, that looks all right. I really don't think I want all this extra flour that's on here. So, right next to the sink, so I can just sweep it into the sink. And I think I'll use the larger of the two. It really looks like it's gone a little flat here on me. Hopefully there's plenty of air bubbles in there that will sustain themselves through the baking process. So now I'm going to go ahead and move it off to the side because this is actually right where the Dutch oven's going to go. So the oven has been at 500 degrees for a little while, almost an hour. And hopefully, just pop it right into this Dutch oven. And I'm going to put it back in the oven for 20 minutes with the lid on it. And I'm going to cut away the extra parchment paper. So again, this is an experiment. First of all, I put sesame seeds in it. But if you saw my last video, you saw how I put those on while it was nice and wet. And then I actually just sprinkled some pumpkin seeds into the proofing basket. And it's not a real Banneton. It's actually just a bread basket, but you can see it added some texture to it. And so I just sprinkled a lot of rice flour in here, and then the pumpkin seeds. Here's a couple pumpkin seeds that tried to get away. I think I might go into those slices one more time before I put this back in the oven. I'd like to see some real good cracks in my crust. Okay, and this one here, I'm actually following the natural break line that it had in it. So that's it. I'm going to put the lid on this and put it in the oven, and then we'll grab the other one, and that's the way I've been doing it normally, what I'm going to do on the next one. So, hey Nate, thanks for stopping by. So let me put the lid on this. I'm going to pop this one back in the oven, and then I'll pull out my other Dutch oven, which has already been preheated. And this goes in for 20 minutes with the lid on. Okay, here comes my second Dutch oven. That thing is 500 degrees. Can you imagine doing this? And I don't have the best pads. If anybody wants to get me a Christmas present, a real Banneton or some better pads. Look at this, you can burn your hand so easy on that one. All right, so now this is how I've been doing it. So this is just a loaf of some sourdough bread that is mostly white, but it has some whole wheat in it. And I just lift it up by the parchment paper, drop it right into the pan, and now I'm going to throw the lid on it. Now this isn't getting any seeds. It does have a little bit of the rice flour on it. Maybe that'll add an artesian effect to it. Before I put the lid on it, what do we want to do? Let's make a smiley face on this one. So I'm cutting a little deeper than usual. I'm trying to cut about an inch and a quarter, and we'll give it a nose. I'm going to give it two nice big eyes. I'm going to wet my blade again. So I'm going to give it two kind of derp eyes. And that'll give it a nice little face. Look at that. Look at it splitting apart already. That's gorgeous, if I do say so myself. So the last time I did this, I actually went to pick up the lid and put it back on with my bare hand. Ouch. This time I was smart enough to do that, and this one's going into the oven. And I'll set my timer for 20 minutes now. And at 20 minutes, I'm going to remove the lid. So let me set that timer. Okay, there's 20 minutes. I will remove the timer. Now this right here is my sourdough English muffins. And I've already measured out about 3/4 of a cup of flour that I'm going to use for kneading this on the board. And I have a scant teaspoon of baking soda. You can see it's not a full teaspoon, so I'm actually going to sprinkle a little more of that off. When they say scant, I think they mean less than a teaspoon. So I'm actually going to just sprinkle that across the top of this. And most of the recipes I've come across use 2 teaspoons of salt, and I always go with less. So this is probably about 1 3/4 of a teaspoon. And so I'm going to sprinkle that across the top of this as well. And I had those pre-measured. That was not a full 1/8 of a cup. It was just 2 teaspoons of, less than 2 teaspoons. All right, now I'm going to work this in. Look at all those bubbles. Woo! That's some serious yeast action going on there. Look at that. My hand's going to get all sticky in here. So I'm just going to work this down and in. I might actually wet my hand a little bit. So my hand doesn't stick to it too much. Just dipping your hand in some water. You can actually have just a measuring cup nearby. And I'm going to do the same thing with this as I do with my bread loaves, and I'm just going to pull, stretch, and fold. And wet my hand again. I think that might be the last time I have to wet my hand, but we'll see. I like it. Just stretch and fold, stretch and fold. Work that salt and that little bit of baking soda. I'm not even sure why baking soda is needed, but I'm following the recipe. It's the first time I've made sourdough English muffins, so I'm going to try to stick to what it says to do. Okay. Now I'm going to use anywhere between 3/4 of a cup of white flour to maybe as much as a cup and a half of white flour. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this on here right now. Take it, flip it over, sprinkle a little more onto it. Okay, now I can continue to work that in. So I'm going to add a little flour to it, but then I'm also kneading it, and I need to knead it for, you say 5 minutes, is that right? Let me look at it. Yeah, 5 minutes. Okay, so I don't need this anymore. This was just for the Dutch ovens so that I didn't melt my board. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit more right here in the bowl, just a little stretching and folding, a little kneading of the bread dough. This is going to be English muffins. Okay, so now I'll spread about a half a cup of flour across the board. And this is pre-sifted flour. You could always sift it more if you want to. And I'll take the rest that's in the pan here. A little bit of dough in there and a lot of bit of flour. I'm gonna take that, make a depression in this and dump it right onto it. Okay. There we go. You guys are going to love my rolling pin. So right now I'm just doing a little kneading to get more of the flour incorporated into it, get it a little bit drier. No more wetting of the hands at this point in time. Yeah, so you want it to be medium stiff, they say. And I think I'm actually going to have to divide this in half. My cutting board, I do have a bigger cutting board, but it's not here. And so I want to have enough so I can roll this out till it's only about a ½ inch thick. And then whatever's left over from my first cuttings, I will add to the second. This seems really elastic, really glutinous right now. So I think that's been kneaded enough. It says 5 minutes, but I think that's enough. Just see if I can use my blade here. Look at that. Look at those bubbles. And it's a little sticky there. Get some more flour into it. So I'm going to take half of it and set it aside, put it back in the bowl. Take this half. You knead it a little more. Just a little bit of stickiness in the center. Okay. Spread out some more flour. Ooh, look at that stickiness showing itself. Okay. I think that's good. So this is my rolling pin. It is a fancy wine bottle. That's another thing that could be added to my Christmas gift list. So to Bannatyne, I don't really need a scale, but we can put that on there. But we could also put on rolling pin in one of those nice marble ones from Italy or Greece or Canada for all that matters. Okay, so looks like I've got it out to about 3/4 of an inch, but it's pretty elastic. It keeps wanting to stretch back. I just stretch it like a pizza dough. That'll be my next project. Now that I mentioned it, I'm going to make a sourdough pizza dough. And it will be a deep dish. Okay, I'm going to roll this one more time. Should have some Christmas music playing in the background. Okay, it is down to about a ½ inch, so I'm just going to use a simple glass. It's a little more than 3 inches. They recommend 3 to 4 inches. I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to press it in there, and I'm going to cut out probably about 8 or 9. Oh, did you hear that? That's the sound of fantastic beverage. Hear the cork come out of there. I think I'm going to get 9 out of this. Well, that's not a full one. Yeah, that'll be a full one. Okay, so I got 9. So now I have some parchment paper that already has a little bit of cornmeal on it. I'm just going to take these and set them on that. So there's our first 9. This is supposed to make 18. I think it's going to make a little more. I think we might get up to 20 of these. Okay, and then I'm going to add the rest of that dough that's trimmed off there into that big piece that I have. So let's respread the flour around. Maybe sprinkle a little more onto here. And I think find a place in this where it's wet. Open it up. I can feel the moisture. I'm going to add that in there. I'm going to knead this some more. Incorporate that in there. Get those dry pockets out of it. Add a little more elasticity. So those first 9 were about 1/2 inch, and it seems like I've still got more than half the stuff, and I'm only supposed to get 18 biscuits from this. So I'm going to roll these thicker. Wow, it's got some elasticity to it. This is not a gluten-free friendly recipe. Okay, so there's a little more flour on it for rolling, and I'm going to roll this down to, I'm going to say 3/4 of an inch this time. There's a little wet spot right there. So these might be some thicker muffins. Take it, flip it over, stretch it out a little more. Sprinkle the last little bit of flour on here. There we go. All right. Give it one more roll. And I'm going to say I'm going to get a good 10 out of this and still have some left over. So here we go. So take my little over 3-inch cutter. Maybe that's why they talk about only getting 18, because they also say up to a 4-inch cutter. So that's 6 already. 7, 8, 9. Try to move it back over here. I got 10. And I'm going to take that dough, the leftover dough, and throw it back in to my pan. Okay, that one's fighting. All right. And you can see it's a little more than 1/2 inch, probably as much as 3/4 of an inch right there on that center one. Once again, I'm going to put them on my cornmeal. And parchment paper. They recommend wax paper, but since I'm short of wax paper right now, I'm just going to use this parchment paper. You can see I'm setting them on top of cornmeal. And I have probably room for 3 more on this pan. So we'll take this last little bit and knead it all up again. Kind of work those dry spots out of it. Get the wet stuff moving through to the dry. I might have to get more flour. We'll see. Don't want it to be all sticky. Here we go. You can see it springs back. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 1, 2. I think this is just going to be a giant muffin. No, I'll make this into 2. So I'll put those 2 on the sheet. I'm just going to flatten this out. Cut it in half. There we go. Form the last 2 just by hand. And we are down to 5 minutes before I remove those lids. So I haven't added any cinnamon or raisins to these, which is what I want to do. And I may do that for like half the batch next time. But I don't want to make muffins that are just for dessert. I want to make muffins that you can put anything on. And so cinnamon raisin don't work for that. So let me move these around a little bit. And there you go. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. So I got 3 extras out of this. And I'm going to let those rise for a couple hours, and I will cook them on a griddle. And those will be my first set of sourdough English muffins. I got a little bit of cleaning up to do. If anybody would like this recipe, just send me a message, either on Twitch or on Facebook. And you can see it's a pretty simple recipe. And this is what they should look like. We'll find out. Let's see, I'll read exactly how long. It says, allow them to rise for about an hour. So in about an hour, I can do this again. So right now, there's really nothing to show you other than the fact that in 4 more minutes, I'm going to pull the top off of the sourdough muffins. And I got some cleaning up to do here. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for checking out my little video on how to make sourdough bread and sourdough English muffins. Appreciate you checking it out. This will end up on my YouTube channel. Writer out. Oh, hold on. You know what? Before we do that, I found this. And it's a shot of tequila. My reward for my hard work. And once again, Ryder out.